Well, greetings and salutations, test takers. This is a Series 7 guru, Dean Tinney, coming to you from my off-grid, undisclosed location with our free office hours for paid students. And we're doing some Kaplan QIDs, and Christina came up with a good one here. And so I want to share that with the rest of the world. And we have 8 test questions about spreads. I call it Don't Hate the 8. If you do all 8 things, you have my guarantee that what you want to know, you've got an answer. First thing, and even if it wasn't a test question, it is. But even if it wasn't, I just told you it is. You have to be able to identify an advanced option strategy, because if you can't identify it, you're just going to be staring at it going, I don't know, B, and then assign it to the universe. That's not what you want to be able to do. So what I like to do here is I like to first kind of say, what am I looking at? I'm looking at a choice to buy 1,000 shares of Alpha at April, anytime between now and April of 40, and for that I paid 6. And I'm looking at an obligation to sell 1,000 shares, 10 contracts, at any time between now and April at 50. I don't know if it's helpful, but I like to think about options as being about floors and ceilings. All the action and spread takes place between the strikes, between 40 and 50. I'll tell you when it's testable. The discussion is not testable. But there's my floor. Let's put that there. And this is my ceiling. My floor is at 40. 40 or lower, the call contracts expire. And we'll determine whether that's good news or bad news in just a little bit. But test taking trick, all the action takes place between the strikes. So we know that the maximum gain or loss is going to equal the difference in the strikes. So when we get to that part of this question, we can eliminate anything offered to us that doesn't tell us the gain and loss is 10. It's got to be 5 and 5, or 6 and 4, or 7 and 3, whatever the case may be. The next thing, if you're following, lots of ways to do options, but I believe you should identify the option position. Are you a speculator? Are you a hedger? Is it a straddle? Is it a combo? Is it is it a flamingo? I'm joking. There's no such thing as a flamingo. But, what is it? The next thing I always say we should do is determine whether it's a debit or a credit. Do you remember, Christina, how we determine whether it is a debit or a credit?
Yeah, you look at the premiums, and
Right.
if it's more, you look at the premiums, you look at which one is higher.
Yeah,
If
so
they
we
give
brought in 2. You're exactly right. So that's 2 that we brought in. You can use plus signs, whatever you want to use. I tend to use dollars in, dollars out, but however you want to do that. Right. And then this is dollars out. And the reason that is so important is because the larger premium dominates the position. Right. So what we're really doing here is this position. The larger premium dominates the position. So let me get my, that's what we're really up to.
So it's a debit.
It's a debit spread. It's a net debit of 4. Net debit. And, spread means difference. And the spread right now is, the difference is 4. Okay, so we've now determined it's a debit spread. Now we can rock and roll, because if it's a debit spread, we know that we want the contracts to be exercised. You don't want to lose your $400, so you want these contracts to exercise. Now, after you get the menu done, you can think about it. Don't think about it until you get the menu done. You can think, okay, well, if these get exercised, I call you and say, okay, Christina, that spread you bought, that spread you went long on? She goes, yeah, what about it? I say it got exercised. And that would mean, Christina, that you bought the stock at 40 and you sold the stock at 50. That would be wonderful, right?
Right.
Indeed, hey, if I buy 1,000 shares at 40 and I sell 1,000 shares at 50, I'm going to make $10,000. I go, no, Christina. We had to pay to get going here. right? You had a cost of your ticket. Your ticket cost you 4 points on 10 contracts. So you spend
Mhm.
$4,000 to get rolling. So you didn't make 10, you made 6. Next thing we got to do, number 4, we did 8 things on spreads, is we have to determine, do we want the difference in the premiums to widen or narrow? Do we want the difference, which is now 4, to get bigger or smaller? And remember,
We
this you could get all the time. Once you get this, do the do. Like when you're wide like Dean, you need to exercise. I joke in some cultures, Christina, this is a sign of wealth and prosperity.
I love it.
Unfortunately, not ours, right? Hey, but in Asia, I'm a handsome dude.
I like it.
Anyways, so let's just again play broker here. I say, Christina, the spread you established for a net of 4. Right now, the net, the difference is 6. Christina, would you like me to close it out for you at 6? That's the net. She goes, what do you mean? I said, well, if I close it out, there'd be a credit of 6. You spend 4, you make 2. I say, hey, that difference is 7. You want me to close it out? So that's the difference. That's the hardest part to get. We don't need to get it because debit, exercise, widen goes together all the time. Credit, expire, narrow goes together all the time. I made an attempt to explain this in a video explication the other day to somebody. I showed you all this, spreads moving around, and who knows? But part of me wants to say, well, who cares? Because you don't need to be able to do that. Now, I did tell you, then this is this question. We're now at the point where we got to figure out max gain, max loss. So boom. And we said one of our tricks, 5 and 6, is that we said that those numbers, all the action takes place between the strikes. And so we know that when we do this max gain, max loss, it's got to add up to 10. And so we can eliminate anything that doesn't add up to 10. Now, I think the easiest way to proceed is to go with whatever's easier for you. There's not many common threads that run through options, but this is one of them. One thing I think is pretty easy for me is that when I spend my money, the worst case is I'm going to lose it. Whenever we buy an option position, we buy a call, we buy a put, we buy a straddle, we buy a spread. The worst case is we lose our money. So the worst case is you're going to lose 4 points. That is your worst case. 4 points on 10 contracts, you're going to lose $4,000. So I think that is the easiest way to proceed. So I'm going to put my loss there, which is my 4 points. And now I know it's got to be a number that adds up to 10. Now pay attention here. I just think, Christina, that's easier than memorizing that the maximum gain in a debit spread is the difference in the strikes less than net debit. I think it's easier just to say, okay, well, there's 10 points to be made or lost because we said the gain and loss equals the difference in the strikes. And so whatever those two numbers are, they have to add up to that. I just think that's an easier way to proceed.
It is.
So, whatever floats your boat, right? We got to have a break even, another test taking trick. We know that the break even has to be somewhere in between these two numbers. So we could eliminate anything offered to us that's outside of 40 or outside of 50. The break even has got to be somewhere in between those numbers. And we have a memory aid device for that, for break evens and call spreads. It doesn't matter, by the way, whether it's a credit call spread or debit call spread, doesn't matter. And that memory aid device is CAL. And that stands for call add to the lower. Call add to the lower. Well, and so we're going to take the lower strike. In this case, the lower strike is 40. And we're going to add the net premium, which is 4, and we get our break even of 44. And then the last thing we got to be able to do on the test, by the way, stay menu driven, but when you get the menu done, then you can think about it. Don't think about it until you get the menu done. But when you get the menu done, you can think about, okay, if I buy the stock at 40 and I sell at 44, I'd make 4 points. I spent 4 points. I break even. I break even. The last thing we got to do is bullish or bearish. And this is helpful because we need to know what the market price is in relationship to this. And the larger premium we dominate. So the reason that's helpful is we know that at 45, we make a point, 46, 2 points, 47. Remember, you don't participate past 50. But that's
Right.
not bullish. Bullish is, how do we determine that? The larger premium dominates the position. Now, what if it was missing the premiums? Well, lower strike calls always have greater premiums. So even if those premiums weren't there, I would still know that this is a bullish spread. I have a trick. Did you guys see my trick in one of my videos? Yeah, I have tricks. I guess some people don't believe in tricks. I told you one thing. I just, Kayla, I was telling you, some people don't like the dean. Thinks you should do lots of questions. And a lot of people don't like that I like teaching tricks. I didn't say you shouldn't learn the information. Let's be clear, you should learn the information. But when all else fails, maybe a trick ain't so bad if it can find you a point. And this is called bulls, and that stands for because you are long the lower strike. In any spread, doesn't matter, debit, credit, call, put, doesn't matter. If you are long the lower strike, you are a bull. And here we are long the lower strike, and so we are a bull. If you are long the lower strike, don't tell people you know that trick because they'll think you're a genius. Say, I bet I can tell you if any spread is bullish or bearish, even if it's missing premiums. Don't tell them you're using the trick and you could go bull, bear, bull, bull, bear, bull, bull. They're going, man, you're a genius. What they're thinking you're doing is going, okay, lower strike put calls have greater premiums. And now, if you do those 8 things, you have my guarantee. If you whatever they want to know, you got the answer. The 8 things are: can you identify the spread? Can you determine debit or credit, exercise or expire, widen or narrow, max gain, max loss, break even, bullish or bearish? I call that don't hate the 8. All right, well, now let's go back and let's do the reveal and let's see what they want to know. There we go. They want to know. By the way, if you get good at practice, drilling, and rehearsing, in other words, what I'm saying is, Kaylee, I'm teasing Kaylee a little bit. But what I'm saying, Kaylee, is maybe you don't want to just answer this question. Maybe when you're practicing, you say, okay, let me cover up the answer set. Let me do my 8 things that I know I might be asked. And if you get good at practice drilling, rehearsing, you'll be able to knock out the 8 pretty quickly. Okay, this is a spread. It's a debit spread, exercise widen. My max loss is the debit. The max gain is the difference. Break even, bullish or bearish. What do they want to know? Boom. And whatever they want to know, you've got the answer. All right. So remember, inch by inch, your exam, your Series 7 is a cinch, yard by yard is hard. And you too can join us for an office hour if you are a paid student. I put those up. I'll put another one up because these ladies are probably going to want another one before they actually take their exam, would be my guess. So we'll put up another one as soon as we're done here. Now let me stop the recording.